Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today I'm joined by Charles Beaumont. Charles is founder of a company called TheyDo. And TheyDo's journey is, or TheyDo's mission is essentially building a journey management platform to build the most customer-centric platform on the planet. So today we're really going to be focusing on the product engineer, or as they like to call it, the customer engineer, being customer success and focused and what that really looks like. So, Charles, thanks for coming to join us.
Thanks so much for having me, Elliot. I'm excited to be here, and I think that was a good introduction. So to add to that, I'm the CTO at TheyDo. I'm one of the part of the founding team. So my humble responsibility to support the team in building a scalable and delightful platform. In addition to that, and usually for a CTO, the people and talent teams also report to me. So I've always been just as passionate about building the company as building the product, and I'm very well aware that talent defines the success of our company.
That's unique. Talk to me about that decision.
I don't know. I think I co-founded the company with Martin and Jochem, and we were always complementary in terms of skills. So Jochem is the design founder and currently CEO. He loves also working in Excel, building financial models. Martin is the strategist. He loves working with customers, and I'm the engineer. So we always thought when we started out in the very early days, together we can rule the world, right? We have all the skills we need. And this is somehow naturally evolved into me always working on the people and culture aspect of the company, and still enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I think it's critical, if not one of the most critical parts to building a business, especially building a tech business in today's world, are your people. We're going to be talking about some of the makeup of these people, but give us a bit of an intro into TheyDo, why you founded the business, and what you guys and girls do.
Sure. So TheyDo as a company, we're a fully remote Series B stage enterprise SaaS startup. So that's a whole mouthful. And what we're building is a journey management platform, as you also introduced it. So journey management is about combining qualitative and quantitative data in order to improve customer experience. So I'll decipher that for you. Everyone out there knows that companies that are more customer centric tend to be more successful and more profitable, right? This is, if you take as an example, if you start your own startup, then lesson number one is always talk with dozens of companies, understand their pains and needs, and work on those. So large companies are, for various reasons, notoriously bad at this, right? So they have it as one of their main strategic priorities, though, to improve it. And what they do is they build CX teams, customer experience teams, to work on this. So these teams, they try to bring the company as close as possible to their customer, so to get a better understanding. And they do lots of research, interviews, workshops. They work with a lot of qualitative data sources. So it could be support tickets, chat transcripts, you name it. And they combine that with qualitative business metrics, so how the business is performing. And that gives them a lot of insights on what to do next and why. So it drives business decision making. I think right now we have like tens of thousands of teams using TheyDo, and we have more than 100 of the largest companies in the world as our customers. So we're really seeing a big need in the market, and it's only getting bigger.
Love that. That is pretty impressive. What have you built?
So we believe in contextualizing all that data around the customer journey, right? The journey is a simple narrative that shows you in a simplified way how your average customer experiences what you're doing. And it can be completely different from how you think they experience it or how your processes are, right? So that already gives a lot of insights. And at TheyDo's platform, you can use AI to process all the data they have around the customer at scale. So they can literally upload 1 million sport tickets and identify the biggest opportunities for improvement and show those on a journey.
It's pretty impressive.
I
That
think
is
so.
pretty impressive. I really want to dive into this mindset of customer engineering, where that's come from, how and why you've coined the phrase. Then we're going to deep dive into some of the engineering challenges, but talk to us about the role of customer engineering and what you think that really looks like.
So maybe what I can do to get started is explain why we think customer centricity is so important, right? Because we had this from when we built a company from the ground up. We actually started out as an agency. So together with my co-founders, we were running an agency that was consulting companies to become more customer centric. And we were actually part of the problem, right? So we would help them build a journey, show the insights. It would be a big presentation and everyone would be excited and we would leave the room. And the next Monday, everything would be back to normal. And 6 months later, someone else in the same company would ask like, hey, could you help us map a journey? And then we go again, right? So we had a good time as an agency, but we were seeing how poorly structured these teams were. So we actually built TheyDo as a prototype first for our own customers. And when we were getting good traction, we decided to scale that. So it actually has always been an itch we were scratching ourselves when building the platform. And we've always believed that everyone in the company should be as close as possible to the customers to get a good understanding of what we're doing. So for our engineers, I think it's commonly called a product engineer, right? An engineer that understands how their work impacts the customer, how they create value for the customer. I think we prefer to call them customer engineers. That makes more sense. And this is something I've also seen come up a lot over the past few years. So when I was interviewing an engineer 5 years ago, I would ask, what would you like to work on? They would commonly say, like, I want to deploy this Kubernetes cluster. I want to work on this new technology. I want to build this. And it was very technology focused, right? And it's completely different these days. It might also be due to how our talent team is sourcing the candidates, I hope. But if I ask an engineer now, what would you like to work on? They often answer, I want to see how I impact the customer, right? How they are using the product and how they're getting value from that. So it's a completely different mindset, which leads to better results for the business. So engineers are very early in the discovery and design process involved. They try to shadow customer calls. They build journeys in TheyDo to get a better understanding of the customers. So we keep them very close.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you're absolutely right. There's been this mindset shift from being very technology driven to now being very user, customer, impact driven. Definite shift in the last 5 years. I'd probably even shorten that down to last 2 or 3 years, even. So there has been this phenomenal shift. You're absolutely right. Talk to us a little bit about how some of your technology actually works, because I want to, if we can, try and get into some of the nitty gritty details. There's a focus on AI, data scraping, elevating that at scale. Can you just give us a bit of insight into some of the engineering challenges that you're often faced with that TheyDo?
Sure. So as you might guess, our focus is on creating customer value, right? Not using the latest state of the art of technology, unless that is needed, right, to create customer value. So there is this mantra you probably heard of. It's called choose boring technology. So use technology that's been proven that will not cause you a lot of issues. And we believe in that. So we have a very common stack. Everything is in Node.js. We have Vue.js in the front end. We have a modular monolith, which we're slowly extracting into microservices. So we did not choose for a microservices first approach, because I think that comes with a lot of pains. And it takes a while before you've identified the domains that you can split up into services. So we keep it very simple. For AI, choose boring technology is more difficult because everything has been built in the past 2 years. So everything is new and exciting. And there we use Python and other frameworks. I think the challenges we commonly have is not in horizontally scaling TheyDo to allow more traffic. I mean, AWS covers auto scaling really well. It is really about vertically scaling. So if people build their journey frameworks in TheyDo, there are literally thousands of relations in the graph they're building. There are different kinds of building blocks and they connect everything. And it means that sometimes we have queries where 50,000 relations would be queried inefficiently with many different joins. And that could actually lead us to even crashing one of our instances with a single query. So that has definitely been the biggest challenge we've been having. So even though we are very focused on delivering customer value, we're always also very well aware there's a lot of operations and maintenance work to be done, right? So we shouldn't skip the technical part. And in order to do that, I could tell you more about the product investment strategy we have.
100%. I wanted to touch on that. I also wanted to touch on mindset towards tech debt, other engineering initiatives. So you can drive with either one first.
Sure. So I think tech debt is not something you can prevent from happening, right? It's a part of the process. There's always people that say you have to balance quality versus velocity. I truly believe you can do quality and velocity at the same time if you do it properly, but you will still create tech debt because you learn new things. You build and design systems for a certain skill, and you just have to redesign those after a certain amount of growth. So that's completely okay. The problem that companies usually have, if it gets to operations and maintenance or tech debt, is like the business awareness of this work. So what happens in most startups, there's PMs, and PMs, it's their full-time job to pitch new ideas and make sure that those are built, right? So unless you have a few dedicated platform teams, at TheyDo we now have 4 product teams, so we're slightly too small to have a dedicated platform team. The attention will be very much skewed towards the product team's work, right? What a PM would like you to build. And I think it's all about visibility. So usually the tech debt and other related work is on a separate roadmap. So this is the product roadmap, and this is what engineers would like to do. And what we did is we, as a company, decided to implement what's called a product investment strategy. And we were actually helped by the founders of a startup called Product Hub. So if you have show notes, I would definitely add a link to them in there. But what it means to have a product investment strategy is you, as a company, commit to, in your roadmap planning, dedicate a certain amount of time to specific areas. And in our case, we have 3 investment areas. One is vision, where we as a company believe that we're building the next big thing for our customers. The other is customer requests. This is direct feedback from customers that we're processing and implementing. And the last one is the operations and maintenance. And we believe that all of this should live on the same roadmap, have the same priority. So we prioritize it by calculating the value it has for our customers. And that way it's always visible for a PM or product team members that the engineers have to work on that specific piece of tech debt. And that really helps. So it is not an accounting system, but it helps us in the communication around why we're prioritizing certain things.
It's something I haven't heard before. And that's why I was quite happy to see it in the podcast structure, because it isn't something that guests will come and talk to us about. But I know there's meticulous planning that goes into building B2B2C or B2C businesses, mainly around like the vision of the product and what we're building and what's the purpose for it. It's really nice to see that that's actually split into three areas. They all hold equal value and equal weight in your roadmap, and there's dedication to all three.
Yeah, definitely. And what we do for the prioritization within those buckets is, and I can explain, for example, for our vision bucket, we say that our whole product org spends 30% of their time on average on the vision items. We have 40% on customer request items and 30% on operation and maintenance. So whenever we plan and a PM tries to take over and listen, I think we should be building this and this, we can always go back to what we committed to as a company and say, like, no, we think we want to invest at least 30% of our time to this. And sometimes we change those ratios, right, on what we learn. So as I said, we were really struggling with performance in the past quarter, fixing that query complexity in our graph. So we use GraphQL. And that led to, I think, not a satisfactory UX for a lot of our customers, and especially the customers that are using TheyDo most, because they would be building the most complex graphs and they would have the most demanding high-load workspaces. So as a company, we said in this quarter, like, listen, this time the operations and maintenance bucket, which we also use to improve performance, is going to be 45% of all our work. And then we do the planning process again. And it helps a lot to keep sticking and referring to those ratios and keep it visible to everyone who's working on it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting and stealable idea, by the way. And when I say stealable, it's probably something I'm going to take from you guys. Future investment strategy. So I'm going to use that. You're a passionate guy. I get this sense that you and the team, and you've even said you want to be the best on the planet at what you do. Talk to me about the vision for TheyDo and where you want to see the business move to in the next 12 months.
Okay, so the long-term vision for TheyDo is that every company is obviously customer-centric, right? We will believe that customer-centric companies will win on the long term. And we believe that you have to be AI first in order to get there. So in order to process all your data at scale, you need support from your AI co-pilot. And we're creating a new category. So journey management is something that did not exist yet. And this is quite exciting, right? As a company, we're not building like the 25th CRM out there. It is something completely new. So there's also a lot we can learn still in the process. And that's why we need to be very close to our customers to understand what their pains are. But we believe this is going to be a really big thing. When we started it 4 years ago, CX teams at our customers were quite small. There was like 2-3 people working on that, right? They were mapping the journeys, trying to get attention from the rest of the company. Now these teams are getting way bigger, right? And they're also involving a lot of other stakeholders in the business. Everyone wants to be rallied around the journey. So we believe that this will be the next revolution after Agile.
Amazing. I think people have always spoken about being customer first, but really like indexing on the journey itself. Like I even talk to friends, talk to colleagues about my journey experience on a website, on an app, but actually having a business get under the skin of what I'm experiencing, not even necessarily unknowingly, but using technology to capture my movements inside of that website, inside of that app, I think is a really interesting space to be in, because you probably know this better than I do, but there will be customers using certain apps or certain products over the other because of journeys that they've been on with that respective business.
Absolutely. And I don't believe that this will mean that in every app you use, you get these annoying NPS survey requests, right? Like, hey, how would you score us 1 to 10? So there are way better data sources. And I think an important rule for CX teams has always been, it's called NS5. So if they talk to 5 customers and they all confirm the same insight, you can consider that to be a truth for all of their customers. The only difference is that these CX teams, instead of them talking with 5 customers, they can now use any qualitative data source and process that at scale. So N will be, rather than 5, will be 50,000, for example. And this gives way more valuable insights and will help them impact business decision making.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So talk to us a little bit about the growth of the business over the next 12 months, then, in that case, and the types of people and types of profiles that you want to hire in engineering, specifically product customer engineering.
Cool. Yeah, we're always hiring engineers. As we just closed our Series B funding round at the beginning of the year, I feel very blessed because it's a difficult year to do funding, right? I think the VC boom of the COVID years is definitely over, but I think the upside of that is that people raising and building startups build way more efficient companies, right? So in the long term, we will benefit from that. What we're looking for is we're slowly expanding the team in the coming year. So there will be a few more product teams. So we're scaling. We're not hyper scaling. And I am looking for passionate, driven, customer focused engineers. And I think if you look at my hiring process, in my personal scorecard, there's actually nothing referring to hard skills. So if I'm the hiring manager, I do a 30-minute first call with an engineer. I look for 2 things, and one is drive and the other is clarity. So drive means like, do I feel this energy? Do I feel that they want data to be just as much a success as I want? And do they provide clarity? Are they clear communicators? Which is so important in a remote company. If they possess both of those, I can guarantee you that they also have the curiosity and the skills to be a good engineer. And usually if they score good on that, they will also score well on the practical interview. So of course our talent team does sourcing and they look for specific experience and skill sets. But for me, those 2 trump anything else in the hiring process.
Love that. A really interesting perspective. CTO and co-founder of the business, optimizing for 2 skills that are away from the technology focus. Obviously, there's correlation between the 2. As you can see, you've hired well, you're a successful business. But nice to see. Are there any hard skills that we can index on here for people listening that you'd be particularly interested in speaking to people about? As an example, product engineers, maybe you need to be in the JavaScript ecosystem, or just a solid back-end, front-end, full-stack engineer.
Absolutely. So for backend engineers, we're specifically looking for Postgres and GraphQL experts to make sure that we can keep on delivering that complex graph at scale. So this is where a lot of focus is. As we build more data integrations, so we have about 6 now, and we'll probably scale that to dozens next year. We also expect exponentially more data ingestion, right? Which means that this performance problem is also going to exponentially increase. So that is one thing that's top of mind for me. If you look at the front end, what's important is that we are a design first company. So not only do we have a design founder, our CEO is a designer, he still loves to design the product as well. But our customers are also quite design savvy, right? So we are serving enterprise customers, but they still expect the product to be delightful, easy to use, and pretty. So we put a lot of emphasis on that. So for example, building our own design system. And we are looking for front-end engineers that love building pretty designs. And in addition to that, we are working with Vue.js, and this is a decision we've made in the early days, and we've always stuck with it. And I think Vue.js is a great framework, but there is a much smaller ecosystem, right? And so the preference is someone who's familiar with Vue, but by now we have had so many great front-end engineers that transitioned from React to Vue that we don't really mind. It's not a hard requirement.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of the transitions in frameworks libraries are relatively easy to make. Of course, if you've got your drive and your clarity, there should be no problems.
Exactly.
But those transitions are somewhat easier to make. The Postgres and the GraphQL, there probably needs a little bit more focus in those areas to really understand some scale challenges that are to come in 12, 24 months time, and understand probably what you're going to walk into. Fingers crossed anyway with, we were talking offline, growth of the business this year. Hopefully there's more growth.
Yeah, definitely. Things are looking good. And it's just good to call out for the backend engineer. I mean, we tend to look to customer engineers, but this role, like optimizing Postgres, this is hardcore engineering, right? There's so many small tweaks, and this is beyond me as a CTO, right? So I trust my backend engineers here to do the right thing. But this is a very specific technical role we're looking for.
Good. Okay. I've loved talking to you. I've loved learning a little bit more about TheyDo, what you're building. I'm hoping we're not enterprise, but I'm hoping to see a lot more enterprise businesses using you guys and girls over the next 12 months. And we'll be chatting. We'll be staying in touch. We'll be seeing where you're up to. But I do want to say a massive thanks for come to join us, come to share a little bit about the journey, and come to share a little bit about what you're building. Journey, no pun intended, by the way.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And for people listening, as you know, the likes, shares, subscribership keeps the ecosystem ticking. So please do that. Share with contacts, share with friends. And for all the links that we focused on in the podcast itself, they'll be in the description below. So please feel free to check out Careers site and a little bit more about Charles and the team and what they're building. And it's bye for now from everyone here at Engineers. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.